Welcome back to Garfinomics, the world's best official, unofficial Garfield-based economics and politics podcast. I have scoured the ends of the earth and I've finally done it. I have found a real life woman to come on the podcast. And not only is it any woman, but an anthropology expert, a resident science expert in anthropology to talk to you today about the weird history behind alternative Garfield and all those weird Garfield Twitter accounts that you may or may not have seen out there in the internet. Welcome to the podcast, Anthropology Expert.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's I gotta say, it's a pleasure to have you here. We've had this in planning for a while.
I'm excited.
It's finally happening. It's here. How much do you know a lot about the kind of like weird Garfield subculture out there on the internet?
Yeah, so maybe not like everything, but when I think of it, one of the first things I think of is this weird channel on YouTube. You've probably seen it where the guy reenacts like scenes from Garfield comics, but then he like goes off and like makes a music video out of it. And
Yeah, that's Lasagna Cat, I think.
that's right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't think of the name off the top of my head, but
Yeah, that's actually interesting because I was trying to like get at the source of like the weird Garfield subculture, and my hunch, my current working theory is that it stems from possibly Lasagna Cat, like all the way back, because the earliest Garfield Twitter, like meme Garfield Twitter page that I could find on Twitter was back in 2014. But it was like a lone account, and there wasn't really any other accounts like it. So I kind of think it's maybe like a one-off thing. But the earliest like instance of like weird Garfield that at least in like a pop culture sense is Lasagna Cat, and that started back
yeah.
in like 2007, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was like 2008 or something like that when the first video has come out.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, that's my current hunch. I
Yeah,
think
no, that's really
Lasagna
good.
Cat's behind all of this.
Yeah, like the not so normal or typical Garfield like fans.
Right. The it's interesting. I think you were talking to me a little bit before we started recording about how there's been like you've noticed like a resurgence in like Garfield merch and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Just I'm starting to see it not so much in person, but online, especially on places like AliExpress. They've got lots of weird stuff because they can sell like stuff with people's art, and so it's like weird Garfield like fan art.
Yeah.
I see stuff on Instagram, and I know a lot of people that are alternative that like I know a bunch of people with weird Garfield tattoos, and it just kind of seemed like out of nowhere the past like year or two, like I started to really notice like, oh, people are liking Garfield again.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because when I was looking at like satirical Garfield Twitter accounts, so I mentioned the like earliest one I could find was like back in 2014.
Hmm.
But the vast majority of them, like the big ones, like
Yeah.
the earliest, like those, the majority of them started around like 2018, 2019.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's just the like ever like evolving meme culture and just trying to find something and like something. A lot of it I think is like stuff from our childhood and just kind of like using it as like a symbol of like weird like millennial and Gen Z like thoughts. Like I see a lot of like nihilistic Garfield and um you
like
know what I mean?
yeah, like anarchist Garfield and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I see a ton of stuff like that. Like
Like kind of like propaganda.
cool propaganda. Like
Yeah,
this is
like
the
trendy,
coolest.
like it's
Yeah,
hip.
exactly. This is the hippest propaganda I've ever been exposed to.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I do too. I've always loved Garfield, and it's really weird to me that it all just started to pop up again, but I'm happy because I've always like been a fan and always looking for Garfield stuff. So I'm like, oh good. But now there's competition to buy it, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, didn't like the intellectual property, didn't that got it, I think Garfield and everything got bought up. Like Paws Inc. got bought up by Viacom like last year or something.
Oh yeah, you're right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. I still don't know. Like every time I get this like worrying suspicion, I'm like I'm building a podcast based off of like copyrighted and intellectual
Oh no.
property. And like I think that when it like Jim Davis was still at the helm, like 2019 and prior, like you can kind of get away with it. But now that like Viacom owns it, I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
like, am I
Get
gonna get in
banned.
trouble? Yeah, get banned legally.
Get a cease and desist.
Yeah.
That'd be
Um,
kind of an awesome one to get though, like a Garfield one.
oh, dude, no. If I got a Garfield cease and desist letter, I would
Yeah.
frame it.
I
I
was
would
gonna say
frame it.
hang it up on the wall. Like
Yeah,
that would be such an accomplishment.
it would be. I would like point to it. Anytime anybody came over to my house, I'd be like, check this out.
True Garfield fans have the cease and desist.
Yeah, only real Garfield fans have the cease and desist. Um, but no, like I kind of like what you were saying with like the propaganda. It's interesting because it's also usually when we talk about propaganda, especially nowadays, kind of post 90s, we're all, or the majority of the world is living under this sort of um, neoliberal, sort of free market capitalism, new world order kind of deal. And in that system, traditionally, we've seen like the past 30 years or so, propaganda usually exists to support those sort of underlying structures. So the
Oh,
forces,
definitely.
oh, yeah, yeah. So, like, usually the forces behind uh, propaganda in our current system are forces like large corporations.
Yeah, I was gonna
Or,
say like big pharma and
yeah, exactly. So like usually that's where we're getting our propaganda from, but with the weird like satirical Garfield propaganda, it's like there's no company like doing this. There's no nothing. It's like
it's kind of counterculture like against it.
yeah, exactly. It's like propaganda by like just normal people for like just weird alternative things like communism or something.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. And I thought that was super interesting when I was looking
Yeah.
at that.
And I think that's one reason why like younger people are kind of drawn to it too, because, you know, we're, quote unquote the woke generations. And I guess we just like it because it's against all of that. We grow up like learning like, oh, um, you know, our country is run by like five big corporations and stuff. So having something like against it, even just like communism in general, like is kind of like a thing a lot of young people, even if they don't really know like what it entails, they're like, oh yeah, I like that because it's against all of these other things and against all this stuff that I hate.
Exactly. No, I think you're exactly right because I think that even when I was younger and I was like still kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. I hadn't yet started to like study economics like in school or anything yet. So like I didn't know when I like heard communism, but like if I would see like a funny like Garfield, I would see like a funny cartoon cat, like an antiquated cartoon saying like eat the rich and like communism is cool. I'd be like, damn dude, that's cool. Like I don't know what
Yeah.
communism is, but it seems
If
pretty fly,
Garfield
man.
likes it, then I like it. Yeah. And it makes me kind of wonder like, if it was any other character, how would it play out? Because Garfield, he's kind of relatable. He's lazy. He kind of says what you want to say in certain situations, but you don't. So it just makes me wonder if it was like Snoopy or something. I feel like it wouldn't have really like gone off that way.
No, I don't think so. I think it had to be Garfield.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just
Like the
had to be
working
Garfield.
class, kind of.
Yeah, he's a working class icon. Who do you think John stands for? What is the metaphor of John if
I think
Garfield's a
John
working
is
class?
just. I think he's just like the idiot like sheep person that just kind of follows and does whatever.
Yeah, I can see that.
I
John
don't
kind of
know
has
about
that.
Odie.
Ah, man, I was talking with somebody else about this, but I don't know what Odie is supposed to be. Like he doesn't even have thoughts. He just kind of
Maybe he's supposed to be children who
maybe
haven't
he
like
is.
developed their they haven't like developed enough to really like make a good decision like what they believe in like with economics and stuff.
Maybe Odie is a symbol of innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like before you learn like the truth about all these companies and
Yeah. Before you become jaded like Garfield.
yep, before you learn that the government is evil and you learn, hey, America is not the greatest place.
Yeah.
Or like what you were saying earlier about how your economics like kind of filtered out like other systems. That makes me think of just the education system in America in general, but like when you think about learning history, we focus so much on our own history and we barely touch upon like world history or you know
100%. Like you and this isn't to say like that's always the case. Like you're always going to have sometimes you're going to have like one class or something where maybe you get to delve into other things, but for the most part I feel like for most of our educational experiences we are just taught things that support the way that things are right now.
mm-hmm.
You're never taught anything, you're never in history, you're never taught any form of history that lends itself to thinking that the way things are right now maybe shouldn't be, or
Mm-hmm.
that there's a way to change them or anything like that. Just that the world as it is now is the way that it is. And here's the cool history and science that backs up everything that it is. So don't try to change anything. Don't think anything different.
Yeah, that just reminds me of that's one of the big reasons that I chose to study anthropology is I always really liked history, but I didn't want to teach and I actually wanted to do something with history instead of just like saying, teaching kids like about the past. And with anthropology, you you definitely look at, you look at different issues, different people, different we talk about different economic systems and stuff like worldwide and talk about like why certain things can be wrong or why things that we might think are wrong may be right to other people and that it's okay for it to be both. And i just I wish that anthropology was taught in more public schools instead of it being something you have to pursue. I don't know, I think about that a lot, just
Yeah.
because it teaches you the biggest thing with anthropology is it teaches you a different mindset, like a different way of looking at things and analyzing. Like you can take whatever anthropology classes, but that's what you're going to get out of it, and that's what's most important. Like learning to view things a certain way. I feel like the way public schools teach and stuff, anyways, like you don't get a lot out of them, and I don't know. I just think at least like one anthropology class would be cool. At least let people know like what's out there and it not seem like a really foreign concept.
It's kind of funny how like it's a big meme in like Republican spaces or like conservative spaces that like I don't know, college turns kids into Marxists or something.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
always
like
thought that was so funny. Like, oh, like all these educated people think this way. Oh, they must be wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's also just like funny because it's like if the meme is that college is supposed to like turn people into Marxists or something, like colleges are doing a really shitty job. Like
Yeah,
they're doing an awful job of doing that.
yeah.
I don't think a single one of my classes in both undergrad and grad school was even mildly like left leaning at all. And to think left leaning, especially in a finance class or an economics class, was to be just chastised by the professor. Um, so yeah, I don't know. That's always been kind of a funny meme to me because yeah, you're right. Like education system should be more rounded. You should be exposed to new things, but it's just so I don't know, kind of laughable how narrow it is and how it is just a form of propaganda. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, we're going to teach you stuff, but we're going to teach you like the stuff that we want you to think is good and normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it also makes me laugh to think like, oh, well, maybe college students like turn more left leaning, maybe because college is so expensive, and to go to college, uh, you have to like jump through so many hoops, and it's just so like, I don't know, it just really is difficult, and it makes you see, oh my God, the world isn't as uh like black and white as we thought. It's hard to go to college and afford it and have to work during it. And I don't know, I think maybe it just kind of opens people's eyes to the world outside of their family.
Yeah. I
I don't know if that
100%.
made sense, but
Yeah. No, it did. I think that maybe the meme comes from like, yeah, maybe college kids do kind of turn left, but like maybe that's less about what's being taught in the classes and more about I can't afford rent. I'm going into like $40,000 in debt to go to college because that's what society's been telling me to do.
and it's just
Uh,
like a joke too. It's like, oh, that's oh, I miss college days when I had no money and just ate
yeah.
ramen. Like, and it's so normalized.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
That's the
maybe
experience.
maybe I became a little leftist because I was borderline homeless alcoholic for like 4 years.
Yeah, exactly.
you know, on the subject though, bringing it back to kind of like weird Garfield. Um, I was thinking about kind of like the time spans. So, like, my current theory is that like Lasagna Cat sort of started the interest like back in 2007 for like a weird Garfield subculture. But do you remember like the I'm sorry, John memes and stuff like
Oh
that?
yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so there's actually like a really popular like subreddit for that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I think I follow it.
Okay, dope. Yeah, no, I do too because it's hilarious. But like, I checked out when that subreddit was made because I noticed on Twitter that the like vast majority of these accounts were started around 2018, 2019. The I'm sorry, John subreddit was created in 2018. So I'm not sure if it was the I'm sorry, John phenomena itself, or if there was something that happened in 2018 that sort of caused this weird Garfield resurgence. And with it resurging in the year 2018, it just became like memeified to death.
Yeah. Now I want to go like look up like when all those like communist Garfield ones, like when they started like going like the Wayback Machine or something.
Oh yeah. Well, let me see. Let me pull it up. Because the first like communist Garfield one that I remember was Karl Garf's, like Karl Marx, but
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
yeah. Let me see. No, that one started in February of 2019.
Wow. I guess time is just so confusing these days that everything seems so far away.
It does. I was talking with my wife about that. We were talking about something that happened like pre-COVID, like something that happened this spring, and it was just so weird. I was like, that was this year. Like
Yeah.
that feels like so long ago. I feel like I've been, wearing a mask and kind of like plague simulatoring my life forever.
Yeah, it really feels like it's been like 3 years or something.
Yeah. It's like a
It,
slow, I don't
yeah.
know. Do you ever get like apocalypse vibes from that?
Oh, more so at the beginning. At the beginning, it was more kind of thrilling and exciting right at first, and then it's just been like a slow burn since then.
Yeah. I remember I remember like hearing about it in like I think probably on Reddit, or maybe somebody mentioned it to me at work or something. And I was just like, oh yeah, crazy new virus, whatever. Like here
Mhm.
comes the memes. But then like it started to just like the news stories didn't stop.
Yeah,
And
then
then
reality hit.
yeah, well, the most real moment for me was at work. One day we were at work, and the very next day we all get a call and we're told don't come into the office today. Uh,
Yeah,
you're actually not allowed in the office. Like your security badge isn't going to work anymore. And it was just
yeah,
crazy. Like I just remember like my stomach sinking and being like, this is a real thing.
yeah. I
Yeah.
just remember being at first like we all kind of it's like what you were saying like oh it was very far away it was news stories oh it was in China but
Hmm.
then it just kept getting worse. It made me think about like when Trump was getting elected, that feeling like, oh, he'll never win. And then it
Oh,
just kept getting
yeah.
closer. And it's like, oh no.
Yeah, yeah, that was weird. It was just like this is a huge joke, and like here come the jokes, and like the joke just never stopped.
Yeah, that there was no punchline.
We were the punchline.
Yeah.
We, uh, but I mean, like in some instances, like that kind of stuff is inevitable, right? Like
Yeah.
we were gonna have like a Donald Trump president, like eventually. It was just gonna happen, like with the current way that things are. And then like with the coronavirus stuff, it's like, well, yeah, we have like crazy antibiotics and stuff, and we do this like crazy industrial farming, which is just like breeding super bugs. And it's like, well, this was
Hmm.
gonna happen eventually.
Yeah, and each country does things differently too. So there's so many like opportunities for something like weird like that to happen.
Exactly. And
And
it's
there's
just
so
like
many of us.
there's so many. We're too strong. We're too strong for our own good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, but I've been getting like real big like apocalypse vibes. And I saw something on TikTok actually. Do you have TikTok?
Yeah, I love TikTok.
Oh, I fucking love TikTok. It's the
It's
best.
great.
It's
I
a
like
great.
to watch cats on there mostly, but yes.
Oh hell yeah. I watch monkey videos a lot.
Oh, I just like any animal one that pops up.
Uh but like yeah, I was watching TikTok, and I this video came up of these like, do you know what Extinction Rebellion is?
No, that sounds interesting. What is it?
It's like this group of like political it's a politically charged like group that's focused on like environmentalism.
Oh,
Um
okay.
and it was just like a few of them, and they're wearing these like dour like red gothic like robes. They look like monks or like sorcerers or something.
Oh,
you
that sounds
know
awesome.
yeah, but they're like wearing these robes, and they're like walking around just like this like city or something, and they're like swinging back and forth like incense and like chanting and stuff. And they're like
Sounds Gregorian.
yeah, it was like very Gregorian. And they were like mourning the earth, because it's almost like they've gone from this sort of like kind of aggressive direct action, like fighting against like
Hmm.
damage to the environment to an almost kind of like giving up. Like
Yeah.
they're like, it's over, like the environment is dead and now we're just gonna mourn it, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like really weird. And like
It makes
it's,
me feel really sad.
yes, it made me feel really sad. And it was also like super like kind of culty too.
Yeah.
And I just got like mad apocalypse vibes from it. I was like, okay, here we go. Like,
No, that's super interesting. I don't know if I told you, but my focus with anthropology was environmentalism and sustainability. So I'm really surprised I haven't heard of that group. But now I want to like go research and be like, hey,
yeah,
I would love to like interview them or something. I don't know.
I would too, actually. Like they're kind of like a smaller group. They're pretty niche, but yeah, I think they're like big enough. Uh,
Yeah,
I don't know. You know, profit motivated apocalypse. Here we come, baby. Like we're coming down to the end. Um, it was like a cool like 30-year experiment with like neoliberalism, you know? It just like resulted in like the dying earth, but it was a pretty cool ride, you know.
it does feel just very, what's the right word for it? I mean, it does. It feels like the world is in a state of mourning, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I've been noticing lately. Like it feels like I
Very
think
solemn.
yes, yes. There's like a yeah, you're right, like a solemnness. I think that maybe in 2016 and again kind of this past election cycle which before Biden got the nomination, I think that you know, like Bernie Sanders, you remember he was running for
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I was
he
real big into Bernie. I
I
mean, I
was
still am, but
yeah, I think we all still are. Like
yeah.
but it's like one of those things where like I kind of think that was maybe sadly that was like the last like hope. That was like the last hopeful thing to like kind of like um I don't
Yeah,
know, salvage things. And then
I agree.
yeah, and then once Bernie lost for the second time, I feel like everybody I know is just kind of in this state of mourning where we're like, okay, well, that was it.
There's no saving this system. It needs to just, we just need to start over because there's no way.
Yeah.
It felt like he was the only person who could have maybe kind of flipped us around. And yeah,
But like, I think that all of that, like, insurgence of like actual like leftists, like actual like anarchists and communists and like syndicalists and these kinds of um, you know, these kinds of economic systems that young people are starting to grasp for as an alternative to what we have now, because what we have now is just failing us. Uh, I think that the pivotal time for that was 2016.
mm-hmm.
You know, the because you had it was such a theater of politics. You know what I mean? It was such a drama. It was you
Yeah,
had three different ideals presented. And
mm-hmm.
it was, you know, you had the Bernie Sanders, which was kind of like well, let's try to make things better. Let's try to salvage capitalism. Let's try to salvage this economic system and try to reform. Let's create this almost kind of like a New Deal too. Let's do
Yeah.
that. And then you had you know, the Hillary Clinton character who, you know, who was just
Oh no.
like, no, everything's fine. The house is not on fire.
The
Uh,
Pokemon go to the polls.
Pokemon, go to the polls and support the system that is ruining your life. And then you had, you know, Donald Trump, who's this like big, doofy, idiotic, like criminal, like businessman who's like, oh yeah, no, capitalism is great. Like it's worked so good for me. I fucked over so many people. How could it be bad? And so you had the obviously like good option, and then you know two obviously bad options. And I think a lot of young people, when they saw what happened and all the forces work together, like the media, the all these kinds of machines coming together to get rid of the only good option. I think that honestly radicalized a lot of young people.
Yeah, and it also being for a lot of people the first time that they were able to vote.
Yeah, yeah,
Just maybe
100%.
Yeah, because for me, I mean, I had voted in city elections, and um, my mom always taught us to, just vote for everything that we can. Always go vote.
Yeah.
And so, I remember I voted for Bernie in the primary, and I actually felt good about my vote. And then,
Yeah.
when Hillary came through and, ruined that, I just was devastated. I was like, wow. I just felt like my vote was worthless then.
Yeah. I don't think I would have called myself a leftist until after 2016.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. I think 2016, like something in my brain just broke. And I was like, yeah, this is not good. This is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think just seeing that there were other options was like, oh, I don't have to pick just between these two.
Yeah. I thought it was so weird when, I remember in like the first primary debates, um, Bernie had gotten up there and he started saying things like, "Nope, actually, your salary is paid by this pharmaceutical company." That is my excellent Bernie. That's my
No,
excellent
that was pretty
Bernard.
good.
Was it? Yeah, and I'm not too bad. But I've just been working on that, a couple hours a day for the past 8 years. um, but yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about. I don't know.
Definitely.
Maybe that's where all these like weird Garfield things are coming from.
Oh yeah, this is Garfield.
Yeah, this is a Garfield podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Maybe that's where it comes from. It's just like this collective
Oh, see
meme.
now you're gonna make me want to talk about because I do metaphysical stuff, and I believe that there was a big astrological shift
Oh, I
around
would,
then,
I
and
would
that
love to hear about this actually.
yeah, and I can't remember all the technical stuff. I'm only like I'm into astrology, but I'm not super advanced.
Hmm.
But we've been going through another shift this year too. And we'll go through these astrological shifts and they always coincide with big events like World War I, World War II. We had some and I don't I mean, it depends if you believe in it. And I do. I believe that um the astrological stuff actually I think it can impact us all in a way, even if it's not like physically like impacting us. I feel like I don't know. Sorry, I started talking like that.
No, 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 no. You're fine. Like I get exactly what you're saying though. Like there's these big astrological shifts or events that are kind of causing, or maybe not causing, but at least coinciding with these larger like world events.
Yeah, exactly. It might not be physically causing them, but it just so happens. So it really makes you wonder.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I've always been interested in sort of metaphysical stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not, like 100% a believer in any of it, but I do find it just as a subject very fascinating.
Yeah, and that's totally fine too.
So I guess that's a wrap. I don't really have anything else to talk about unless you do.
Um, no, I think that's good. I mean, we've kind of gone over like every subject humanly possible.
We have in this
So,
this episode alone, we've talked about every single topic known to the human brain.
yeah.
This is actually the podcast episode that you know
No DMT needed. Just listen to this one.
exactly. You don't need to talk to machine elves. You just need to
I was gonna
listen.
say the space elves.
Yeah, no space elves, no DNT, just
No God.
Garfield. No God. Garfinomics is your god now.
Yes.
We've done it.
Yeah.
Um,
We've done it all.
We've done it all. Nobody
Giraffe
will
of the
ever.
universe, boys. Shut it down.
Shut it down.
Shut it down.
I'm gonna call up God real quick and tell him to turn the lights off.
Yeah.
It's over.
Lock the door.
Lock the door. Closing time. But yeah, this has been the world's best official, unofficial Garfield-based economics, politics, spirituality, tattoo, art podcast. This has been my guest, our resident anthropology experts. It's been a pleasure having you on today.
Thanks. It's been great.